50% of women who retired in 2024 took a phased approach to enter retirement by working part-time or taking on more flexible work, compared to only 19% of women 20 years ago. So from 19% to 50% of women are now working part-time or flexible time as they enter into retirement. Thoughts on that from you?
Initially, I think it's shows the difference of retirement now versus retirement 20 years ago. I think a big portion of that is probably the lack of pensions nowadays. Probably 20 years ago, when you were retiring, you had potentially Social Security if you were old enough, and probably a pension to go with that. Nowadays, maybe not as lucky to have the pension. So, maybe some people say, well, I don't want to work full time anymore, but now let me just get a part-time job so I can kind of ease into retirement from a financial standpoint, and then as well as potentially even a emotional standpoint. Hey, I'm not ready to not have a job. I like getting up, I like going to work, but maybe I just don't like doing it as much as I do it now on a full-time basis.
Yeah, I was thinking boredom, which I think
Mhm.
goes right in line with that. Is just that feeling of maybe they're just scared of being bored, or they realize they were definitely going to be bored. So I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's a positive, trend. It's definitely helping people ease into retirement a little bit more and not putting so much pressure on, hey, I'm either all in or all out. People are realizing they can have flexibility, live off some of their assets they may have accumulated for retirement, as well as, not having to take as big of withdrawals, which again give them that flexibility to keep those account balances increasing, not withdrawing as much maybe before Social Security kicks in, or whatever it may be. But I think it's interesting. I think it's good for the workforce.
Yeah, my financial planning, my finance, thoughts were, definitely the boredom and all of that. I definitely think, we meet with people all the time who are just a touch scared of having enough. And this is an easy way to test retirement and test withdrawing from your portfolio. And how do you feel about that? And what does your portfolio look like 6 and 12 months, 18 months down the road, withdrawing a little bit to get started? So I definitely think that has something to do with it. I don't, we're talking positive. I don't want to ignore maybe the not so positive, which is traditionally the average person is unprepared for retirement, right? Is probably doesn't have quite the amount of money they need to fulfill the plan like they want to. Maybe they've reached retirement age, but not retirement, financially ready. And so working part-time to help supplement, that earlier retirement by not quite having enough. I think that's probably a huge piece of it. And then lastly, my thought is just the female aspect alone here, right? How many more women are taking higher, more manager and executive level positions that you can't just swap someone in and out? Right. I certainly feel like if you or I lost Brooke or Leah, that there would be an extremely long learning curve of exactly what they do every day, and having them train us or us figuring out by our own. And so you see this a lot in higher positions in corporations, of this flexible period of time where they have to train, the new person. And so that's obviously a huge positive to have more women in those positions and needing that part-time or flexible retirement, because they're training, the next person to take over for them. So
Yeah,
yeah, all in
I love
all,
that
positive.
perspective. Yeah, that's a really good perspective to have, and yeah, very much can be a contributing factor to this statistic right here. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and lastly, the other option is to deal with your husband all day, and so yeah, definitely a little part-time work can curb that. So anyway, just thought that stat was interesting. I appreciate your perspective and time. As always, we appreciate everybody watching. And if you have anything you'd like to hear Will and I's thoughts on, comment below or send us a message, and we'd be happy to touch on the subject. So thanks again, Will, and everybody have a great rest of your week.